street vendor is arguing that we need to use all of the stories that we've got across our whole community as an equity scanner. An equity scanner. To find out where the scales are against a particular group. Some of you might think, in our school we've got that count. In our school there is equity already. To which you say, okay, so can you hand on heart tell me that your neurodivergent kids have the same access to positive well-being and regular success as your neurotypical kids? Can you say that? Can you have more else say the same is for your kids who are learning a language other than their own, as opposed to your native English speakers? Do your 3-year-olds have that same access as your 18-year-olds or your 49-year-olds? If you aren't able to answer those questions with an affirmative yes, you've got an equity problem. And guess what? Every single school represented in this room has an equity problem because you are schools. And we haven't understood that the system in which we work needs to be replaced by systems thinking and understanding. We've got to find the voices on our margin. We've got to use our data. I can't stop talking about data because I find it so exciting. We've got to use the data in our schools to find out who is on our margins so that we can do something about that and bring it to the center. In street data, they talk about what they call the equity transformation cycle. This is my graphic, but their words. We start by listening to the voices on the margins, not by thinking that we can tell their single story. They uncover amazing things about their lives, and then we reimagine. I went to our room and I said that. We reimagine a more beautiful future, and then we move towards our future. But we're not doing this in a single journey. We're constantly going back and forth, back and forth, and back and forth, iteratively, trying to understand the stories of the kids on the margins. And street data is a beautiful thing. Here are just a couple, 2 or 3 quotes from the book itself, which hopefully show you how important and how powerful this is. Because we've got street data in front of us all the time. If Lisa is in my class and I'm having interaction with her, I'm listening to her stories and getting that street data all of the time. We need to be slow in our approaches to well-being, both individually and institutionally in our schools. And that's, some of you might see a contradiction there, but I'll come to that later. You know, you're in schools where some kids are only with you for a short space of time, a year, 2 years. If we're slow, it might be listenable. Hear me out. Think of each child in your school as a plant, or each problem you're facing in terms of well-being in your school as a plant. What we see, and what we try and do something with, is only the emergent state. All we're trying to wrestle with is what has already shown itself above the soil. What we see in most kids is their emergent state. What we see in most problems is the emergent state. And then we rush around firefighting the whole time. And it's exhausting. And incredibly ineffectual and inefficient. Because when a real change happens, is in the soil. It's in the systems, the cultures, the climate of our school. That is where the change happens. And that's when a lasting, sustainable, transformative change takes place. And yet, we don't spend anywhere near enough time trying to get to know that soil. Because we're constantly trying to keep the plants alive. Back home in Scotland, where I live, in my spare time, like to murder house plants. Because when I see a house plant that's struggling, I give it some water, right? And then oftentimes it's still struggling, so what do? I give it some more water, yeah? And then it's struggling even more, so I think, I just haven't given it enough water. And eventually I water it to death. Because what I'm not understanding is that the problem lies in the soil itself. I have to tell the story of a Japanese excerpt maple tree that I had in my garden in London. When we first bought it, it started to wither quite quickly. And we were really sad and also a bit annoyed because it cost quite a lot of money. And we researched and tried to find out more about Japanese maple trees, and we learned that they need acidic soil. And then we thought, how can we make the soil more acidic? And then we read that if you put your coffee grounds in the morning onto soil, that actually makes the soil more acidic. And so we did this, and within weeks, the tree was blossoming and blooming again, right? So we've got to understand that soil. We've got to understand a number of things. We've got to understand what are the nutrients that soil needs. What are the nutrients that our school culture and climate and systems are lacking? We've got to understand the toxins that are there already and we have to remove, and the toxins that we must make sure we don't add. And thirdly, we need to really focus on and understand what is submerging all the time. Some of you who might have heard me speak before have heard me talk about my own experience of severe childhood trauma. And some of the kids in your own schools would have had a very adverse childhood experience. And what happens then is you don't experience the damage then. The damage seeps down into the soil. And in my case, it sprouted forth when I had my own kids and I was in my late 20s. The decisions we were making around the world at the time of the pandemic, because we had no plan in place, we made big decisions that will impact on our children's young lives for so far into the future. We won't truly see the impact of the pandemic on the kids in your schools until maybe 5, 10, 15, 20 years' time. So we've got to get experts digging around in that soil. A wonderful school leader within the BSME group, Jan Foley, some of you may know her. She was in a conference with Andrew and me on Thursday, and when we asked her what she learned most, she said, I learned we need to taste the soil. Because the best gardeners and farmers, they're not experts in plants, they're experts in soil. And really dig down into the soil, we can start to understand the systems in which we're operating and how we want to shift the system. Same kind of problem at the centre of this map here. And then we think of many different reasons why that problem might exist. And for each of those reasons, we think of many different reasons why that reason might exist. And for all of those reasons, we do the same again. And you do this on a massive piece of paper. And you end up plotting this beautiful ecosystem around that individual problem. Then you can start joining up bits. And that's where the really cool stuff starts